When you hear the word billionaire, what comes to mind? Private jets, right? Sprawling mansions, total freedom to do whatever you want. It's this incredible fantasy. But what if the reality is the exact opposite? In this explainer, we're going to dig in and reveal a life that is so far from that dream.
And this cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the perception, on the other, the stark reality. So forget about a life of leisure. This is a life built on three very different pillars: crushing discipline, constant unrelenting pressure, and a deep, profound sense of isolation.
Okay, so first things first, let's just tear apart this myth itself. The popular image of endless luxury and these carefree days. Where does that idea even come from? And more importantly, how does it stack up against the day-to-day truth?
This is the question we all want to know, right? Let's forget the highlight reels you see online. What does a normal Tuesday actually feel like? What's the minute-by-minute reality of living life at this kind of level?
Well, the answer, in a single word, is a grind. But it's a grind on a scale that's almost impossible to comprehend. We're talking about a day that begins in total darkness and is just packed with a level of intensity that very few people will ever experience.
Yeah, 4:30 in the morning. That's the wake-up call. And that's not for some special project or an early flight. That is the daily rule. The day doesn't kick off with luxury. It begins in the dark, hours before most of the world has even hit the snooze button.
And look, just waking up, that's not even half the battle. Before there's even a sip of coffee, the emails are already flooding in. Decisions that have enormous financial consequences are already screaming for attention. The pressure is on from the absolute second you open your eyes.
So yeah, you can forget those pictures of some lavish, Instagram-worthy breakfast spread. The reality is way less glamorous. Breakfast isn't a luxury, it's just fuel. It's all about efficiency. Every single choice, even down to what you eat, is optimized to save time and maximize your output for the insane day ahead.
And this quote right here, this really reveals the entire philosophy driving that whole routine. It all comes down to this. When you can afford pretty much anything in the world, you become painfully aware of the one thing you can't buy: time. It's the ultimate non-renewable resource, and all this extreme discipline, it's about protecting every single second of it.
Okay, but that brutal schedule, that's really just scratching the surface. The true cost of this life, well, it runs so much deeper. We're talking about the hidden personal and emotional burdens that come with this kind of extreme wealth and power.
Think about your own job, right? Eventually, the day ends. You clock out, you go home, you disconnect. That concept, it just doesn't exist in this world. The weight of all that responsibility, the constant stream of decisions, it's a 24/7 reality. There's literally no off switch.
And we're not talking about some vague abstract pressure here. No, this is the very real weight of knowing that thousands of families depend on the decisions you make. It's knowing that a single offhand comment you make can literally shift markets and change people's fortunes. Every move you make is a high-stakes play with very, very real consequences.
All of this unrelenting pressure also creates this profound side effect. It's kind of paradoxical, really. As you climb higher and higher up the ladder, the world around you actually gets much, much quieter.
This is that deep isolation we mentioned at the start. You can be in a room full of people and feel completely, utterly alone. Genuine, real conversations become a total rarity. And why is that? Because you can never really be sure of people's motives. Almost every interaction becomes transactional. People want something from you, not for you.
So how does anyone even get to this strange, lonely place at the top? Well, this life wasn't a gift. It was forged, it was built on a foundation of massive risk, incredible struggle, and maybe most importantly, a whole lot of failure. This whole journey is a marathon of just pure resilience. It is not a sprint. Just look at the key moments here. A huge risk right out of the gate, followed by a brush with total, catastrophic failure. The consistent theme you see is choosing long-term pain over any kind of short-term comfort again and again until that breakthrough finally happens a full decade later.
And that brings us to the real bottom line. After you survive a decade of that kind of struggle and you achieve this unimaginable financial success, what keeps you going? Because at a certain point, it has to stop being about the money, right?
The motivation itself fundamentally shifts. It has to. When you have more wealth than you could possibly spend in 100 lifetimes, the goal changes from accumulation to application. It becomes a game of impact, of legacy, and of just managing the immense weight of everything you've already built.
Which brings us to our final and most essential question. If the private jets and the mansions are just a side effect and not the actual goal, then what is the true currency? What's the real price of admission to play this game?
And here it is. The real chase has nothing to do with luxury. It's for these three things. It's the discipline to get up at 4:30 in the morning day after day. It's the mindset to endure constant pressure and isolation without breaking. And above all else, it's the sheer raw will to keep going when every single instinct and every obstacle is screaming at you to stop. That is the real price.
And, when you really think about it, this is probably the most powerful takeaway of all. After seeing the reality behind the fantasy, the grueling schedule, the immense pressure, the profound loneliness, the real question isn't just, how do I get that life? It's, do I actually want it? And after understanding the true cost, it is perfectly okay if your answer is no.